Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be mine and Stanley's 2-month update. So if you want to see how we've been doing since we last updated, then keep watching. My little guy is fast asleep at the moment, so I'm just gonna sort of sit him down on my knee because he's way too heavy to hold up for this amount of time. But the last time I did an update on me and him since he's been born, he was a month old I think, and I was planning on doing more regular updates, but then a few things changed and I wondered if it was being a bit spammy and that sort of thing. But I've got plenty to update on actually, so I'm gonna get into like the biggest thing that's probably happened since I last updated, and that is Stanley's hospital admission which was very dramatic. So basically last Tuesday, which was the 1st of May, I was pottering around all day, like Mark was still off, and I'd gone to Slimming World, more on that in a little bit, and I'd lost weight and I felt really good, and my mum was like, why don't you come and do Zumba with me? My mum's been going for about 7 months now, every Tuesday night, and I was umming and ahhing, but I decided to go, and I was really reluctant, but I had a really good time. And I came back and I remember going to Mark like, oh, I feel amazing, I'm buzzing. We knew that Stanley hadn't been that well, like he'd had a bit of a chesty cough and had been a bit like snuffly and wasn't eating great, especially that day. And I said, how's he been? Sorry, I'm like going on about myself, how's Stanley? And he said, oh, he's been really fussy and really unlike himself, and he's been a bit sick and he's not eating his bottles. And I went over to check him, and you know when your instinct just sort of alarms and you're like, something's not right. And I picked him up just to sort of see how he was, and he roused and like woke up, and he just looked really sad, and he was really restless, and he was just looking at me with these big blue sad eyes. And then he had this massive coughing fit, and the next minute I know I'm covered in projectile vomit and it was everywhere. And I was thinking, this isn't right. So I rang NHS 111 and gave the details over the phone, and they decided to send an ambulance. Now, one of the biggest bits of information that I gave them was the fact that Stanley's chest was like compressing in, it was like being sucked in, and he had what's called a tracheal tug. Now I'll like insert some footage of what that looks like here so you know what I'm talking about. Now typically if you see this on a average baby, this means that they are, you know, in distress and struggling to breathe properly, and they might need a little bit of help. So obviously when I gave that information on the phone, they were very like alarmed and wanted to send an ambulance. So I gave that information, but I also said down the phone, he's been doing this for quite a while, almost for as long as I can remember, and I've been doing some research myself but didn't say anything because I didn't want to be one of those like Google mums that's like, oh by the way, Mr. Ambulance Man, Mr. Paramedic, like this is what I think it is. And they had checked over Stanley and explained what had been happening, and they thought it was quite likely that he had bronchiolitis. So we were blue lighted to our local hospital. I was trying really hard not to get upset because obviously with what happened with Daisy and her having my syndrome and things like that, I did get diagnosed when she was about 10 months old with post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of like being her carer and the stress that we went through initially. And when I'm in instances where I feel like my family members are threatened or poorly, I get quite like, I get like kind of a flare up, if that makes sense. So I was quite distressed and quite upset, and we got to the hospital. We stayed that night and we were walked to our room on the ward because he was a baby and because he had like a viral infection. We were in an isolated room, which I suppose was a blessing. And I realised as we were walking towards the room that it was the room that Daisy spent time in when she was about to be discharged. She was in there for about a week or so. It was the last time that she was in hospital in that room, and we spent a lot of waiting and hoping that she was able to come home. And I saw the room and they opened the door and I froze because I don't know what it was. I just seized up and I was thinking, oh my god, I really hope that I can deal with this and I hope I can do this. And we went in the room and it was fine. He did well overnight, and I had to get up every like 2 hours to feed him, because feed him little and often so he didn't cough it up, because he was coughing that violently that he was making himself sick every time. And then we had a lovely consultant come in the morning who did a lot of checks for my syndrome, just to double check that there wasn't anything that had been missed, which again I found pretty horrific. But I'm not going to say any more on that, because it's just, you know, they're kind of my demons and you don't need to know about me struggling, really, do you? But and then she mentioned something, and the minute she said it, I looked at Mark and Mark looked back at me, and it'd been the thing that I had researched and found online, and that is what I thought he had. And what it's called is laryngomalacia, I think I've said that right, and it's basically a floppy and undeveloped larynx, which is like, you know, where you breathe from. And because his is slightly floppy, it's quite common. Absolutely nothing to do with my genetics, which is a relief for me, let me tell you, because I don't need any more guilt in that department. But it is quite common. Babies and young children can have it for a short while once they're born, and it's just because the larynx isn't like strong enough yet. So instead of being like a, you know, relatively firm hollow tube, theirs kind of collapses on themselves a little bit, so you can still breathe, but it's just a little bit of extra work, which would now explain why he wasn't able to breastfeed. It would now explain why he's quite difficult to get to feed in general, and just, you know, explains the chest, because babies work a little bit harder, but it's actually very normal. So if you saw a baby with his chest and throat like that, normally they would usually be accompanied with blue lips and like visible signs, like vital signs that they weren't able to breathe properly, whereas for him it's just kind of the way he is. We haven't had a strict diagnosis because we're being referred to the ear, nose and throat team at Manchester, so we're waiting for a referral to go there. A lot of babies do struggle to gain weight when they have laryngomalacia, and so far Stanley is not as big as what he was when he was born, because he was 9'6" and on the 91st centile, but now he's just under the 50th, but they're not concerned because he is gaining. And babies can also have reflux as a result of it as well. So he seems fine for now, and like touch wood, he continues to be fine. But it's just been like, when I noticed his chest doing that, suddenly I didn't really want to be doing updates, because I wasn't sure what was wrong with my baby, and I just didn't feel comfortable doing updates or talking about it until I knew for sure, especially with what happened with Daisy, because I just feel like all I'm doing is coming on here and being like, and this baby's poorly too. But he's fine, he's doing really well. And my goodness, like if we get on to the normal aspects of having a newborn, he is 8 weeks and 2 days old now, so he will be exactly 2 months old on Friday, I think, or Saturday. And he is a delight. He's been smiling now for a good 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm not even joking. Like with my third baby, I know what's a real smile. He is so coy and so like, oh, I don't know, every morning when he sees you, he almost gurgles and bubbles up with delight that you're there. And when he gets like all like excited, he gets all bashful and like hides his face and grins at you. Are you telling me a story? Are you? Really? Is there something funny that you want to tell me? Is there something funny? He chuckles and he goes like, ho ho, ho ho. And it's very similar to Daisy's laugh when she was a baby actually. And he's just a dream. He probably drinks around 20 to 25 ounces of milk a day, sometimes a little bit more. I say 20 at the moment because he's still unwell and struggling to feed because he's very congested. So hopefully that will stick around more like the 25 to 30 mark as he gets bigger and better. And he's in 0 to 3 month clothing. He's just over £11 now, so he's doing really well. He had his 6 to 8 week checkup with the GP yesterday along with me, and he's doing fine. Like all of his like developmental signs are great, and he's doing really well, and she wasn't concerned in the slightest, and she knew that we were getting the referrals, so that's been good. And he's just a dream. He really is such a happy little boy, and I absolutely adore him. I am so in love with him, and I'm just so glad that he's here. I really, really am. Like, he's really settled into the family now, and it is at that stage where everyone says, I can't remember life without him. Like, I can, but this just feels like a new normal now. He still has a dummy, which he doesn't really rely on to sleep with at night at all, but sometimes has it for comfort in the day. And he is enjoying his playmat now, and also his bouncer. We have Fisher Price ones, the matte playmat I've used with Daisy as well. I used to have a similar one for Bill, and then the bouncer we've got recently, and it's absolutely great. He loves that. And he started with his left hand. He like sees something that he wants, and he tries to boff his dad a lot. Like, Mark will go moo, 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 and kiss him, and then Stanley will try and like smack his chin with his hand. But he started like feeling for things. He watches his left hand a lot, and he like bats at toys and tries to work out what it does and how he can use it. And it's fascinating to watch, because I feel like he's clocked on to his physical abilities quicker than any of my other children have, although admittedly Bill is nearly 6 now and the memories do fade, sadly. But no, he's really cottoned on. He's a very, very smart little chap. Like, you can just tell that he's always thinking, and he's lovely. He really is lovely. Like, if you've met him, you'd want to give him a cuddle and a little like cheek squish, because he's such a little dreamboat. He really is. In terms of me, I am feeling really good now. Mark went back to work yesterday, so I was really, really upset yesterday, because it was just, I did the school run with all 3 kids, and it was like quite challenging getting out of the house, as you can imagine. But then I came home to an empty house and there was no one to talk to, and you know, I've got Daisy who's like coming on more and more all the time now, but I just missed him, and I found it like really sad yesterday. And today I'm getting into the swing of things a bit more. I'm remembering what I used to do with my time, like getting on top of chores and doing work and answering emails and replying to comments and trying to film videos like this. But it's definitely going to be an adjustment. I think it's going to take me a couple of weeks to realise that Mark's not coming back. Otherwise, like, things are fine. I think I'm coping all right. At my 6 to 8 week checkup, I was asked about my mood and stuff, and obviously there's notes on my file about my PTSD, but she asked about that, and I said, like, as far as I can tell, I'm okay. Like, I did have a setback last week, which I found hard, but I'm doing fine. And the only other thing that we spoke about is contraception. And I know that talking about contraception when you've had a baby like nearly 2 months ago is one of those things where you either like, yeah, I want to talk about it, or no, I'm not ready to have sex again at all. But like, I am one of those women that like is ready, and like, I'm happy to, I'm kind of excited to, I'm gonna put that out there. And we did have a chat about that, but basically I don't want to go back on anything hormonal, because it doesn't agree with me at all. Like, it just affects my mood, and I just don't think, when I really like break it down, that like it's right that women have to flood their bodies with hormones that they don't need to stop a pregnancy. Like, I feel like for me personally, it's like, that just feels so weird. Like, men don't have to do that, and yet we're the ones taking pills that mess with our systems. It seems crazy to me. I've been on the pill before. Bill was conceived while I was on the pill because I had a sickness bug, and I was one of those unlucky few. Well, lucky few if you think about it that way, because I've got a gorgeous son. And then with Stanley we were using condoms, and obviously he was a surprise as well. So I don't really want to go back down either of those routes. So what I'm thinking about trying this time around is the coil. So there's the Mirena Coil, which is slightly like, it's a hormone based coil, or there's a copper coil. The Mirena lasts 5 years and the copper coil lasts 10. But I was going to go for the copper one because it's not got any hormones. But my doctor did say to me when we had a chat that the Mirena does have hormones, but it's largely restricted just to your uterus, and it has effects to your uterus but not the rest of your body. She says a lot of manufacturers say that it doesn't affect the rest of the body or get into your system at all, whereas she says that she doesn't believe that 100% to an extent, but she does think it's very, very minimal. So there are 2 options there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ring up and book an appointment when my first postpartum period stops, because On the day that Stanley went into hospital, I also started my first postpartum period, and it's been going for 8 days now, which has been a delight. And it's been really heavy. I've had to change pads multiple times in the middle of the night. I've been going through tampons at an alarming rate, and it's been horrific. I've been really hormonal. I've been really uncomfortable with it, so I'm just warning you. I don't know if they get worse with every baby, but this has definitely been my worst one to date, and I really have not enjoyed it. But thankfully, touch wood, it is easing off now, and hopefully it stays that way. And then if you are a follower of my channel anyway, you probably know by now that I've started Slimming World. I started back when I was 6 weeks postpartum, because obviously that's when you are allowed to get back into healthy eating and exercise and that sort of thing. And I'm really pleased with my decision. I'm hoping to lose 2 stone, but I'm not going to rush to do it, because last time I did Slimming World, Daisy was 5.5 months old, not, you know, 6 weeks old. So I'm taking it slow and being gentle on myself, because obviously my body is still doing some work in there to try and get back to normal itself. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. And obviously I've started Zumba, which is exercise, and I feel like that's a really positive decision for me. So this is my tummy 2 months after having Stanley, and as you can see, it's still quite doughy, I would say. I do think that, look at him, he's asleep there. I do think that it has come in a little bit more, but I've definitely got a lot of bloat at the moment, and I'm really hoping that that will start to go down. But all in all, I'm pretty pleased. So yeah, that is the end of this video. I will be back with our 3-month update in a month's time. I think doing it every month is a nice way to do it, and then I guess by 3 months old, this one's going to be quite animated, and there will be lots more to say, I'm sure. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all well if you've got little ones as well, and let me know in the comments down below if we've got any new arrivals, because I know lots of pregnant ladies have been watching these updates. And yeah, have a lovely day whatever you're up to, and I'll see you next time. Bye.